you start to notice corporations, if that were their goal, that wouldn't happen for sure, because they're really not that. They're not even held together by duct tape and prayer. Most corporate, even the really good ones, because I've worked for Fortune 500s, I've done consulting for them. You would not believe the level of chaos in some of these places, and it's just this flat world thing. And if we shrink it down to, oh, it's just against the Catholics, it's like no, you don't understand. They're seeing every complex thing in the world that way, right? Which is, I don't know, I think I'll call it Paul Kingsnorth disease or something. He's certainly guilty of it. And I've got the video recorded. It's not edited, but I've got a video coming out about this. So soon in the next few weeks. Yeah, because it's this flat world sort of thinking is absolutely everywhere, where and people have their cartoon or video game version of how the world works, and they're just like, yeah, that's definitely like that. And then you get the Curtis Yarvins of the world, who allegedly now a conservative, which made me laugh so hard I thought I was gonna hurt myself. Saying everything's a type of a church, as though that's a reasonable way to understand the world. Hey, Jacob.
Hello.
Hey, Jacob.
How you doing? Formerly deacon, now Father Big Mac, Eric.
Jacob would remember my deacon days. He's been around long enough. It's pretty daggone cold here, but by the end of February, I hardly even notice. You just used to it.
It was down in like the 50s here.
Ha!
Oh, ha! How do you survive? We'll send a care package, Jacob.
Oh man, yeah. So anyway, but it's supposed to warm up at the end of the week, and I'm looking forward to that. And I brought it up multiple times because that's how much I'm looking forward to it.
You're getting like record cold. Like it could be -30 there on Wednesday or Thursday or something, right? Like it's
tomorrow, but yeah.
I can't keep track. I just know part of that storm is going to hit us, and I'm like, we're done with this. Although we had sun today. It was chilly.
We just got one. I don't know if that's the remnants of what we had in Boston. We got a good 6 inches.
Yeah, these storms have been really unusual because they've gone so far south and so far north at the same time, which is
awfully windy. It's awfully windy too.
Washington D.C.'s gotten more snow this year than Fargo has.
Yes, it has. Oh yeah,
Fargo's definitely had more days below zero, but Washington D.C. has gotten a lot of snow.
Yeah, no, there's been an unusual amount of snow, a ridiculous amount of cold. We had like 12 days of gray on and off rain with just one knot like that in the middle. And I was like, oh, I can't deal with this. I gotta leave. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, well, that's why you live in South Carolina, right?
Yeah, well, hopefully it continues to improve. Oh, the sun was nice today. Like you could feel it, and it was nice and warm.
Yeah, South Carolina is beautiful as I envision it. I envision like the picture from the Patriot.
Those
big townhouses and nice trees.
Well, there's some of that. It depends where you are. Like you'd like Ridgeway. You go by Ridgeway, and it's like Old South, but there's nothing in Ridgeway. Like actually. It's funny, right? So if you fly into Charlotte Airport, Charlotte's 10 miles from the South Carolina border, right? So you fly into Charlotte Airport, which is just west of the city. You drive down to my house. The minute you get out of the Charlotte metro area, most of which on that side is actually in South Carolina. It's Rock Hill, it's called, and the surrounding towns. There is nothing except the occasional gas station off the highway. Until you get to my house, you are in the woods.
What? Andrew. Hey, I'm gonna go eat. I'll get out of your way, Father. If you would. Oh. Yeah, quickly though, I was gonna do a Bible study on Acts. Is there any tips or advice on any or things to pay attention to or point out during the Bible study? I was pointing out like how deep and rich Catholicism just reeks in the Bible. So I went right to Acts.
Oh man, I guess just get books by Scott Hahn and John Bergsma and Brant Petrie and go from there.
The woman I'm actually Bible studying with is actually big fans of. I'm a big Scott Hahn fan, but she likes the other two, so that should actually help. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got a little bit of convergence here. Their stuff's all good.
Hey, thanks for having me, Father Eric. Always a pleasure, gentlemen. Take care. God bless.
Good to see you, David.
See you, David.
So, Father Eric, I'm guessing you didn't hear about the whole Elon Musk baby mama controversy.
Yeah, unfortunately, I did, and I would just like to remind everybody about Church's teaching on marriage and family life. And if you want to have 14 children, you need to have a robust wife.
Only one, a single robust wife.
Apparently, all of his children are IVF.
Really?
Yep.
That's
all
not a
of
good
them,
sign.
as far as we know.
How I don't understand how that works, right? Because she was saying like, oh, he he's very gentlemanly and all this, and I'm like, then why the IVF, bro? Like, what's going on? Like, why romance them? If like, I don't. If you're already disconnecting
it's the
everything,
way of the future, Mark.
I'm driving, man. I'm driving.
I know at least the one woman he's had most of his kids with is very into transhumanism and selecting your children from embryos.
Yeah. We've had this conversation before that the IVF, you bring your children into the world with the wrong kind of grip, suboptimal grip. Dr. Vervaeke was here. In improper relationship to them because they're now they're the result of technicians' speciality and having scientists in between you and your wife, basically, rather than ideally coming from an embrace of love. So.
The crazy thing is, I don't understand how an intelligent human being trusts the testing mechanism, because what they do is they fertilize the egg. So you have a bunch of embryos and they let them grow large enough so that there are enough cells that then they pull one of the cells out and test it.
Yeah.
And then they decide. And it's like, well, you interrupted the growing process of those cells by taking one cell at a pretty early stage.
Yeah. No, you have to weaken it to test it. That's everywhere in science, across all the sciences. And I think part of the plus you have a sampling problem, you have an signal attenuation problem. Like, you have all the classic problems of science multiplied because you're doing all of them at once, which means it's an exponential effect. And I think the problem is, like Nassim Taleb says, read all his books, these people are bad at statistics, or they'd figure it out real quick. Oh, this isn't working. No, statistically, it's not working. Like, they've just told you the statistics work differently from how statistics actually work. And and there's all kinds of other problems, but even the math is wrong. So I don't, people fall for bad statistics easily.
And now people are talking about external gestation, which, the big thing I've been trying to help people understand is in utero bonding with the child is a real thing. Yeah. Like a 6 month for 3 months before that child is born, that child is hearing your voice, is bonding with the mother and father. And when it's born, it recognizes the voice of its parents.
Yeah.
So Hello?
Well, that's funny, Jacob. Basically the outline you gave is Dianetics. That's the basis of Dianetics.
I know nothing about that book.
Is that Scientology, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, if you read,
Scientologists get this right.
Well, that's the problem, right? Every good lie has a seed of truth. Like they talk about this. They say basically the engrams are the result of trauma that occurred before you were born, either basically during the gestation period, effectively. And so, like, it's a great sell, right? Because you don't know, and you have no way to know, right? Because you don't have a memory to refer to at that point, right? And then, of course, their claim is you do have a memory, but you don't have access, which is great, right? Because psychology tells you there's a conscious and an unconscious, which is correct, by the way. I don't know why he doesn't talk about the unconscious. It's far more important than the conscious mind, but whatever. And so, like, they play on all the tropes. They just flip them. And if you're not careful, you don't see the trick, because no one sees the trick. They don't see the trick in statistics. They don't see the trick in little things like that. They never catch it.
So people watching on my channel, I pinned the link to Father Eric's channel to the top of the chat. If you click on it, you'll come to Father Eric's channel where you can like and subscribe. And you can participate in the chat with everybody else.
True. I think the problem with statistics too is that a lot of people are learning statistics is really bad statistics, and learning good statistics actually takes quite a bit of effort, unfortunately. Although
and you might not be good at it.
Huh?
There's a decent chance that there's a considerable portion of the population that just won't be good at statistics, no matter how much instruction they're given.
Well, that's right, and I think like Taleb's basically, part of his thesis is these people are just educated in the wrong things, and they could have used statistics, and they've got no brain power left, and so they rely on something stupid like p-values. And I remember the first time I ran across p-values, I went, well, this is obviously not correct mathematically, and I'm a math idiot. So really, you guys fell for this? Like, this is obviously wrong. Like, this is obviously prone to all kinds of mathematical errors, right? Like, so in p-values, for example, the closer you get to zero, the more precise it is. And I'm like, do you not understand the problem with the system? And they really don't. And I'm like, oh my goodness, math is not your thing.
Yeah. So that was my basic reaction to all of the Twitter drama. I don't know if you were expecting anything more than that, other than just shaking my head and saying that's not the right way to do this.
To be honest, I was kind of setting up the volleyball for you to spike it.
Okay. Appreciate it.
I think he did.
Hopefully it's a good spike.
There have been various people, especially on Twitter, saying, oh, like, the right thing to do is just congratulate him, and we don't care about people's private lives.
I think if I knew them and I saw the baby, that would be my first reaction. But, like,
yeah,
they're airing this out in public right now, so.
Well, the thing is, too, like, I was like, guys, this isn't that hard. She didn't have a baby, so I'm not going to congratulate her. First of all, that's already fraught with problems, right? Second of all, I don't know her, right? And third of all, she railed against single motherhood and enabling it and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's another thing. Apparently, she was one of these conservative influencer women.
By your fruits, you shall know them.
Yeah, well, but that's
what my rabbi says.
This is the problem. I did a whole video on navigating patterns about Lauren Southern. Like, I'm like, you guys have obviously never met any conservatives or identified them as conservatives, at least in your lives. these people aren't conservatives. They're moderate leftists. I mean, they're still leftists even. They're not even like moderate Republicans who are closer to conservatives, but they're sure as hell are not conservative. They're not even close. There's nothing conservative about them. And now all I've been reading on Twitter all day, Jacob, is new conservative. And I'm like, do you not understand that by definition, there's no such thing as a new conservative? Really? Have we just like blown up the world completely now?
Yeah. What's going on? A reactionary is not a conservative, and I think a lot of the people who are reactionaries, and frankly, sometimes I think the right response to society going down the wrong path is to be a reactionary and be like, no, this was the wrong path. Let's go back to what was before.
Yeah, but it's just leftists fighting other leftists and calling it a culture war at this point. And I'm like,
truly
whatever.
Conservative people are actually conservative.
Well, they're not online. This is the other thing people, and when they are, they're online on like Facebook, posting to their local community about things going on in town. They're not the type of people that are online posting about Ukraine that they know nothing about, and
they don't care that much about.
Yeah. Right. But if they hear it, they sound leftist, because a conservative's response to somebody is in trouble is usually something like, let's pray for them, or let's get a fund together for them. Because that's how conservatives think, because they're the ones that give to charity, by the way, not Democrats. Democrats don't volunteer and they don't give to charity in anywhere near the percentage numbers as conservatives do. And so
it's really funny. I have started to realize that some of my friends who are who I grew up with are very, very conservative, but they're conserving Los Angeles values, because some of them have started like sending money to Ukraine. And it's like, oh yeah, you're really conservative. You really are. Like they don't rock the boat like at all.
Right.
It's there,
but they come across as leftist because all the values leftists don't have, that they keep whining about everybody should have and virtue signaling that they have, they don't actually have those, right? And when they see them, they think you must be one of us, even though they're not things that they actually do on average. And that's part of the problem, is that, you know, and I've been freaking furious on Twitter saying, like, these people are not conservative. They were never conservative. Like, you would die if you met a conservative. You really would. You'd have a heart attack and die immediately, because these people were never even close to being conservative. They're leftist moderates. They're like way far away. You know, lumping Trump in with the conservatives. I'm like, man, you're in for a shock, buddy. You're in for a shock about how far right the right really is. You think the far right, by your definition, is bad. Wait till you meet a conservative and find out what they really believe and how they behave. It would kill you. You die on the spot. You just die of the shock immediately. It's very straight. You know, I've been telling people, like, no, the conservatives are the people making the food, so that when the culture war leftists stop fighting, they can move in and take over. People don't like that, oddly. But it's amusing, so I do it.
Father Eric, how are things in the diocese? Are you having huge ceremonial duties?
I've got a few coming up. We are dedicating Holy Cross Catholic Church's new proper church. They've been in their so it's another church dedication. I had one last year, so that's quite the ordeal if you're organizing those things. But it's also a very big and joyous occasion, consecrating the altar and blessing the whole church space. So that's coming up, and that'll be in the middle of confirmations, where Bishop and I drive all over the diocese and do confirmations, and then we get a little break from all that action for Holy Week. So we're coming up on the busy time of year for me. But the end of February, it's going to be still pretty chill.
Does the bishop do dedication of altars and stuff? Okay.
I mean, unless he really can't, he's the one who does it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Need
we're
the
gonna
big
so the basic outline of the ceremony is we'll start off in the social hall and we'll process into the church. There'll be a little ceremony of like handing over the keys and opening the doors, and everybody gets to go in. Then the bishop will sprinkle the walls and all the people inside with holy water. We'll do the readings and the homily. And bishop will do the prayer of dedication. He'll anoint the altar with sacred chrism. He'll go around and anoint all the walls with sacred chrism. We'll burn incense on the altar and then burn incense throughout the entire church. Then we'll wipe some of the oil off, put the altar cloths and the candles on, and then begin the Eucharist. There's also a big prayer of dedication before the anointing. So yeah, that's.
Do you recite? Do you recite the Psalm of Dedication? Because I just immediately assumed you must include the Psalm of Dedication.
Which give me a few lines of that one.
Well, I know it in Hebrew. Mizmor Chanukat Habayit. Let me see if I can find out which one it is.
Can you give me the Grail Psalter? That's the one I'm most familiar with.
Psalm of Dedication. Let me see which number it is. Psalm 30.
Okay. I don't have that one at the tip of my tongue. Bible Gateway.
Well, because we recite it so many times during Hanukkah meaning dedication, I kind of sort of used to have it almost memorized.
Almost?
I'm bad at memorizing things, so like I'll kind of have like if you remind me, but like not. Yeah.
It's really interesting. I didn't know this was. So it's in the text that it says it's for the dedication of the temple. It's a Psalm of David, but I've never associated this one. It's in the breviary, obviously, but I've never associated it with a dedication of the temple. Just because the text for the dedication of the temple isn't included in the breviary, just the text of the psalm. So I don't remember off the top of my head if we chant that one or not. Because there's a lot of different songs. Like every time we're doing something, there's a psalm that we're chanting at that point with an antiphon. So it's entirely possible that it's in there, and I delegate the music to somebody else. I tell them, here's the book, here's the stuff that's important in there, and you just need to figure this out because I'm going to be busy up front. So yeah, and I don't have my order for the dedication of a church and altar right next to me, so I can't check. That's at work. Because it's not like every priest has one of those on his bookshelf.
There's no priest app. If there's no priest app, you should probably make one for the other priests.
No. Don't corrupt yourself with evil technology, Father. Don't do it.
I think everything that could usefully be put on there is on iBreviary already.
Okay.
So I won't make any further. And that guy already gets in copyright trouble all the time because he doesn't have permission to be publishing this stuff at all. So he just does it.
So when I went for Andrew's baptism, the Copts have an official app, and all of the priests and monks carry iPads with them instead of. Yeah.
Look, Jacob, we invented the printing press.
Yeah.
And we have nicely bound books. That's how we do things. I
That's
will
better for you.
allow that if a priest has pretty intense vision problems, he can go ahead and have the iPad with the big blown up texts so that he can continue to say mass.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's an
No.
allowance we make, Mark, an allowance.
Yeah. Right. It's not some big tyrannical machine that eats you because Jesus said wealthy people can't get in to heaven, or whatever nonsense King's North is spouting this week. Idiot.
I just found it really funny that the Copts and like I was looking like because the screens they had screens all over the place which were following and so it's Coptic, Greek, and English, right? Or was it no? It was Coptic, Arabic, and English, right? So it's like 3 different languages, and all the priests are walking around with their iPads. It was just.
Oh, but that makes it too easy. Like this is the problem with technology, right? The next thing you know, you get a bunch of people using it who really shouldn't be, right? Because it kind of equalizes the world. To be fair to technology, it kind of does. But equalization means flattening, and flattening means flood. And that's not better, but it sure is worse. So there's always that. I mean, I'm not a fan. And yeah, to be fair, Father. Yeah, okay. So sure, the Catholics invented the printing press, but yeah, the Jews had tablets. So I mean, that's a fair comment.
I just think that like if something's going to be used in worship, it should be as beautiful as we can manage,
and rare and handmade. Yes. Exactly.
So like our books, our liturgical books aren't quite handmade, but they're like very well bound. They've got good art in them, high quality paper and ribbons, leather binding, all of that. And yeah, so
Did I ever tell you about Daniel Bomberg? Do you know about Daniel Bomberg, Father Eric?
I do not.
So Daniel Bomberg was a Catholic printer early when the printing press just came out. Yeah. And so he got permission from the Pope to print books in Hebrew. And so the Talmuds that we now have, so he got a bunch of rabbis together, and the Talmud we now have and what's called the Rabbinic Bible. I didn't know this until I started looking into the background of it. They all come from this Daniel Bomberg guy. And yeah, so like the paginations for the Talmud and pretty much every Orthodox Jewish home has a Mikraot Gedolot Rabbinic Bible. They all it was all because of this Catholic guy who apparently also made a fortune. I mean, it was not also nice, but yeah, so that's Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, there was a hunger at that time for getting back to the Bible in its original languages and not going through the Vulgate for everything. And it took a while for the Vatican to, because the Vatican's conservative, right? It's like, look, the Vulgate's been serving us fine for 1,000 years now. Like, why do we need to go and mess this up? That's conservatism right there, in case you've been looking for it. Although I will note that during the Council of Trent, they decided that they were going to make critical editions of the Vulgate to make sure they had access to the best text possible for a new edition of the Vulgate that matched St. Jerome's vision most closely. So that's a
hello.
That's hello, Kirk. Good to see you, or not. Yeah. So make of that what you will. But now, Catholics are all on board with original languages. We just don't insist on it because
Yeah,
we've got
tyrannical.
translators for that. I know
If
that
only
blows
you
your
were the-
mind, Jacob. It's just how we roll.
If only you were as tyrannical as all the Protestants think you are. Just saying.
Lay down the
Wait.
law, Father Eric. Lay
The
down
wasted
the law.
opportunity. Well, yeah, the Catholics definitely have to buckle things down a bit. That's why the Ortho Bros are a thing, and they're not going to Catholicism, and you can hardly blame them. Catholicism's not giving them what they want and need. So
I will lay down the law on the Monday night open mics. This will be a well conducted and properly disciplined talking time.
Jacob loves the law.
He's
That's
zealous
Um,
for the law, no doubt.
You said good to see me or not, or what?
You just don't have your camera on.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I said good to see you or not.
I don't
There
know.
he is.
I
Although he's-
need a haircut. I need a haircut.
okay.
soon.
You're excused. You're excused. I saw the opportunity for the joke. I
it was a
I
good
made
joke,
the
Father.
joke.
It was a
Yeah.
good joke. I appreciated it.
I'm just
I really did.
They Catho Bro life. I don't think Catho
Catho
Bro is
Bro.
a real thing.
There aren't any Catho Bros here, unfortunately. The only
Yeah.
Catho Bro we have left.
I don't know if there are Catho Bros. Is that even a thing?
It's
No.
I mean, like, what do we
Tech-
mean when we say bro? Are we just talking about like a young man who just wants to get into arguments? Is that what we mean? It's a
Yeah, I
common
mean-
stage, like it's gonna happen. I got really excited when I was in like 4th and 5th grade. My parents got a subscription to the Catholic Answer magazine, which was an apologetics magazine, right? Exactly the sort of work that you would find David from the Zealots Den doing. And I was just super into it, right? Like every time they'd show up, I was looking forward to the Catholic Answer magazine. And, I think for the time it was good, but you should probably move on to either real life engagement or theology with a little more depth at some point. So,
Jacob was very much
yeah.
for real life engagement as well.
Yeah. And Catholics love their whiskey and cigars. They love wearing suits, and they love having in the background of their podcasts a lot of books. Just to have
Frenchmen
overwhelming
also,
intellectual firepower. That's what a Catho brew is a little bit like.
Is that why Frenchmen love cigars and all that, or isn't that a French people stereotype?
No.
Hey, I think human beings just enjoy smoking.
I've heard that associated. I've heard smoking associated with the French, but
No, not cigars. No. Cigarettes? Sure. Not cigars.
yeah, tomato. It's all not great.
No, don't say that to anybody who smoked a cigar. They'll probably kill you on the spot. I'd be very careful with that one.
It's okay if you don't know this, Kirk, but your average cigar smoker doesn't draw the smoke into their lungs. They just have it in their mouth. So it's a bit more of like a flavor experience for them, whereas the cigarette smokers really want to get the nicotine into their system. Cigar smokers oftentimes smoke far less frequently than cigarette smokers do. So there is a bit of a cultural difference between a cigar and a pipe smoker, right?
Yep.
They're much more similar to each other than either to the cigarette smoker. Although you will find exceptions to that rule, but usually cigar smoke is like too heavy to be drawn into the lungs. It'll make you sick if you try that.
Yep. You'll get sick real quick.
And cigars are not often filtered like cigarettes are. So
it's like a rich man's cigarette.
the thing is you probably save money just considering how less frequently cigar smokers go for it. They probably end up saving money in the long run.
It's cheaper. It's cheaper for sure. Yeah.
Even though a pack of cigarettes would probably be cheaper than a box of cigars, you end up buying more of them. Your average cigarette smoker.
Right. You go through a carton a week. cigar smokers are going to smoke 2 a week. So,
Yeah, I guess because of the addictive nature of cigarettes, it would actually be long term more expensive.
And it's interesting the way some of these things have become kind of class markers.
yeah. Well,
And-
because they are about your ability to, to control your desires effectively, and that really is what it is. Like, you get rid of the class system, do you? But you don't, because it's a real part of the world, and so it just shows up in other ways.
It's sort of
some-
like, what do you mean by poverty? St. Francis of Assisi went around wearing essentially a garbage bag everywhere and didn't own anything. Is that the same sort of poverty as somebody who spends all their money on lottery tickets, alcohol, and cigarettes, and the clothing they can't afford? It's like they're not the same. They're not the same sort of poverty right there.
Well, one is spiritual poverty and one is material poverty.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, RJ is coming in with some good advice. Just don't pick up smoking, Kirk.
I plan not to, unless it's maybe a cigar, maybe one dollar per cigar.
A cigar every once in a while. You won't probably get addicted to it. I won't say that you absolutely won't, because you can get addicted to almost anything. But yeah, Catho Bros are the rad trads. That's where all that
Michael
energy
Knowles-
usually ends up.
You think Michael Knowles is a Catho bro?
He's a little more articulate, I guess, than.
But he is. Yeah. I mean, effective. That's his pandering audience. I think he should be excommunicated tomorrow, but it's not up to me.
Or what?
I'd kick
Okay,
him
does
out.
he have a canonical crime that we're aware of? Or are we
Yeah,
just
he's flouting this prostitute yesterday woman as a newly minted Catholic who's going to stay in the church, and then of course she continues to prostitute herself in our cooking show instead. And I'm like, what? Why are you doing? This is not you. You're not to decide who's transformed or who's in or who should be getting this kind of credit, especially when you're not out there holding any line, right? You're just letting everybody in. This is not a Protestant club. Like, sorry. The amount of shock that Protestants have when Catholics go, yeah, we know everyone's not getting in. That sucks. And they're just like, what? No way. You can't. It's like, of course. Like, it is an exclusive club. Hopefully not too exclusive, but also, who knows? It's too bad. Like, no problems, bro. We're not trying to let everybody in. And they're always shocked, utterly shocked. Like, whatever.
I will say, Mark, that we cannot apply canonical penalties such as excommunication to people without there being a canonical crime, and unless you're going to try that on, like, I think it's 1399.
I think that is a canonical crime. I mean, you're basically out there in public showing people that this woman, who definitely isn't Catholic, who was on OnlyFans a week ago, is some kind of.
I have to point out that you are accusing Michael Knowles of, in essence, exercising the canonical authority of the magisterium while disagreeing with the canon lawyer on his show. I just have to point that out.
You can point out whatever you want. My point is still correct and stand, which is you can't do that, right? Like things like what heresy is about is about what you're displaying to others in the world publicly as a signal. It's not about your
canonical definition, Mark.
I'm just going to say that Father Eric is a little bit better at defining Catholic heresy.
Yeah, I know, but I also don't.
People,
but I also don't think that he's actually seen what Michael Knowles is doing, and that is the issue.
So is it sort of similar to like the Shia LaBeouf thing a few years ago?
What's Shia LaBeouf?
No, I wouldn't say it is. I mean, Shia LaBeouf like you can make a case for Shia LaBeouf. First of all, he had this role, right? And he describes a transformation, right? This woman was on OnlyFans the week before she went on Michael Knowles. Like, it's
a little quick, huh?
there's no transformation, there's no event, there's no witness to witness. Like, nothing happened, right? Her story is, oh, I'm trying the same thing I was doing on OnlyFans on the cat. I mean, Awaken with JP did the perfect spoof of it. It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect, right? Where he was like, hey, you want to make a lot of money, to his good-looking woman in the video, right? And he's like, you could do the same thing that the OnlyFans girls do, only to the Catholics. And then they, it's always it's a spoof, right? But they do it, and it's wildly successful. But it's the same pattern, right? And then of course she ends up doing her quote cooking show, and I mean it's just lewd and disgusting, which it's the same thing she was doing before, only she's got her clothes on and she's eating food. Great, thanks, that's fantastic. But there hasn't been an event, there hasn't been a transformation, there's nothing occurred, right? She's on OnlyFans. She figured, I'll switch platforms. I'll go over to Catholicism platform from OnlyFans platform, and we'll do it on YouTube like we were doing before, kind of, right? Except you could do that on YouTube. You could only do the OnlyFans stuff on OnlyFans, right? Or maybe one or two other places. But we're just going to do the exact same thing. Nothing's changed. Nothing's happened. I've gotten married to a Catholic guy or something, maybe, and that's it. And then so obviously I can just be who I was before, only married to Catholic, and therefore everything's fine. And I don't think holding that stuff up it is really good. And then he tried to defend it, right, and ended up looking like a complete moron, because of course, once her show came out and everybody saw what she was doing, they're like, these are literally the same faces, the same movements, the same everything that she had on OnlyFans. She just has her clothes on now, but same amount of makeup, like,
I
the
mean,
whole
her clothes
nine yards.
on
Like,
seems like a
nothing
pretty big
changed.
difference, in my opinion. I mean, clothes
Yeah,
on
there is
is
something
pretty big
about
up there.
There's something about social media posturing. I remember.
Did Shia LaBeouf do that? Because I didn't see it.
No. You provided a lot of good information right there.
Okay.
The key point that you haven't actually seen any fruits of repentance, right?
And nothing happened that would, like, the Shia LaBeouf story, there's a story there.
Right.
Something happened that he witnessed, right? Or was, showed to everybody, right? Nala's not that. Like, nothing happened. Nothing changed at all.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So this isn't the matter of like, I was in this bad lifestyle, my life was falling apart, then I found Jesus and I decided to give that all up. There wasn't even any of that, or was it unconvincing in the way that it was portrayed?
Both. I mean, it was clear that nothing had changed, and she didn't have a story of change. She just said, like, it was basically an announcement that she's moving platforms. It's basically
Right.
what the interview was. So that should have been a tip off right there. And then look, this isn't just me. A bunch of people noticed and went after Knowles immediately the first time he, simped, for they kept calling him a simp, which I think is actually correct in this case, right? And now the internet's on fire with simping conservatives. And I'm like, well, listen, given what Michael Knowles has been doing, he's not a conservative. I'm sorry. He's another moderate leftist posing as a conservative to get to be on social media, because conservatives aren't on social media and they wouldn't be popular if they were, because that's not where conservatives do any of their sense making ever.
Mark,
So,
I think you
Father,
shouldn't speak for who isn't a conservative with this.
well, but that's too bad,
spiritism.
Kirk, because I'm gonna. So,
Okay.
Father Eric, I have a question. So let's say Mark convinces me, and I go, hey, Michael Knowles, maybe his father, his priest, should take these things into consideration. Like, is that a fair thing for me to, like, go find out where he's getting communion and go talk to the parish priest there and be like, I'm not sure this notorious Catholic who's saying certain things.
But you want to do like a Canon 915 there? Is that what you want to try and pull off?
I have no clue what a Canon 915 is, but
Sounds
you
good.
go ahead and explain.
Whatever you can fire, let's do it.
Yeah. So it's really yeah. Canon 915. Those who are bound by a penalty or a delict, or who obstinately persist in manifest grave sin, are not to be admitted to communion. So you'd need to convince people that A, there's a gravity there worthy of being denied communion, and B, that they're obstinate in whatever it is that they're doing, right? So Michael Knowles lives in Tennessee, or does he live in LA?
I think he's in Tennessee now.
Yeah, let's imagine that the Bishop of Nashville writes a letter to Michael Knowles saying, hey, quit promoting prostitutes. Bad. Catholics shouldn't be doing that. And let's imagine it's just like a private letter, and Michael Knowles comes out and says, I won't promote prostitutes anymore, right? That'd be great. That'd be the way that the canon law itself would envision this going, right? It's just like, we're just going to kind of take care of this, brother to brother first, even with somebody who has a large platform like Mr. Knowles there. But considering the current state of discipline in the church, I'm not anticipating anything like this happening. Hopefully, Mr. Knowles has some smart Catholic friends who can talk some sense into him, and that's maybe our best bet right now.
Yeah.
As far as canonical penalties, maybe people who say that they think it's great that they're Catholic and they talk about how Catholic they are and they publicly promote unlimited abortion should be our first targets, rather than foolish podcasters.
Hey, I was
How many
very
cannons do we have?
proud. I was very proud of the Bishop of San Francisco for publicly excommunicating Nancy Pelosi, and I was very, very outraged on behalf of my Catholic brother and sisters when she flew to Rome to get communion that week.
Yeah. But she's also got an appeal to the Roman Pontiff on this case, which, while it's an appeal, the lower, basically you get a stay on that order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So.
That's too bad. They should be able
Hold
to
on,
burn
she
her at
gets
the
a
stake in the
stay?
meantime.
Why isn't the presumption that the bishop is right?
Because the matter's being so in anything that establishes a penalty or restricts the free exercise of rights or creates an exception, you have to interpret them strictly. And I'm sure there's something in procedures about that, but it's just the way it works. Is if the matter's before the Roman Pontiff, you get the more beneficent option. So.
We're very anti-Pelosi.
Hey, look, I understand that there are people who are extremely pro-abortion in the world, and I understand that there are bad Catholics out there, but I think when you specifically say I'm a Catholic and yet I believe in this because of my Catholic values, that's just really not good. Oh my!
I'm sure Jacob feels the same about people speaking in the name of Judaism who do all sorts of nonsense.
Let's all offer up a little prayer for Chad, who's about to meet his daughter here. And I will say, in this case, congratulations, Chad. And I really pray and hope that you'll be a good dad.
Yeah, good news.
Things are going in the right order there.
We got that question up there, Father. That
Which one? Which one?
From Saint Croissant. I believe he means.
Yeah.
This one right here.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Eastern Orthodox Christians here. So heresy is designed as the obstinate refusal to accept the Catholic faith and publicly saying things contrary to it. So it's hard to call somebody who's not in communion with the church a heretic, because it's like they're not expected to keep our rules. We would say that they're in schism right there, but there's been an effort, certainly since the Second Vatican Council, to not assign the sins of the fathers to the children, which is, I believe, a very biblical theme there, and to not just categorically say they're all schismatics and heretics, even if those words could technically be used in their proper sense of something. It's like, well, we're not going to emphasize the schismatic, but we would say that they are in error about the authority of the Roman Pontiff. So, yeah.
I don't think they teach like don't listen to him or anything. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, the Orthodox do still say that he's the Bishop of Rome, so that's a really interesting point right there. But they would
so do
be
you.
Yeah, right. So but they would be in error regarding his immediate, ordinary, supreme, and universal jurisdiction. So,
Right.
What about somebody who's baptized a Catholic but confirmed an Orthodox? They might be assigned the canonical penalty of schism, but if they're really convinced of the truth of the Orthodox faith, they won't care.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, it really shouldn't be that big of an issue, because they've decided they don't want to be a part of the club, and they can certainly depends on what it is that you're denying. And the church used to have all sorts of different layers of epistemic certitude about her teachings. And so if you pull out an older manual like the Fundamentals of Catholic Dogma, it'll give the theologian's opinion on, oh, this is de fide, but this is just a common opinion of the teachers, all these different levels there. So
What's like an
that would be-
example of the different levels?
Sure. So de fide would be something like Christ is fully God and fully man. It joins together perfectly his human and divine, and they would pull together scriptural and creedal information to say that is revealed by God to be true and defined by the church as such. A common opinion of the doctors would be something like, in the resurrection of the body, you will get at least some portion of your own body as a part of your new resurrected and glorified body. That it's sort of like, that's kind of a more secondary matter of theology. It's the sort of thing some people debated for fun in the universities, and most people came down on this side of the question. So that's probably what we're just going to go with. So I read that entire book cover to cover because I'm a madman.
I can confirm. Father
there
Eric
might
is a
be-
madman.
I mean, Jacob probably would know a little bit more about this than I do, but I think there might be a similar concept in Judaism with regards to like nigla versus like more esoteric parts, or like more like the revealed Torah of the Tanakh and the Talmud might be more universally accepted than Kabbalah.
I'm not sure what you're trying to say.
I was just asking if that's an accurate comparison in your view.
And no.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the main of that was just like one is universally accepted versus one is more debatable. Like,
in Judaism, pretty much everything is rather debatable. It's very, very, yeah. I don't know if you watched my recent discussion with Rabbi Burton, but he was basically saying, well, it was actually surprising what he was willing to say. I clipped it and put it on my Twitter. You might want to check it out. But
Yeah, I've seen part of it. I think I'll have to look more into it. But
so Chad, I want to know if Chad is like waiting at the hospital or like
Driving.
how
I had to run to the Walmart to get something. She'll be induced. The induction will start here in a couple hours.
Oh, so she's being induced. Okay.
Yeah, it had to do with just worries around preeclampsia and that. So yeah, it's just they want to be safe or whatever, I guess. So, but I'm
Yeah.
losing reception. So if I cut out, my bad.
When was the due date?
The due date was the 20th.
That's
So,
pretty close.
yeah.
The baby's ready to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's ready. Yeah, she's been having minor contractions off and on for a couple of days now.
Congratulations! And as soon as you've got some nice pictures, you should post them someplace where well, maybe not everybody, but those of us who are worthy.
I'll share.
can see it.
Yeah. Yes, I'll share them with my friends. Yes.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah. I just wanted to thank you, Father Eric, for what you do and what little interactions we have had along the way, and I just appreciate you, and I wanted to let you know that and offer my thanks. Also,
Thanks, Chad.
Also to you, Jacob, as well as Mr. Lefebvre. But I should get going, guys. Have a good one. Bless you.
Good
Have a
luck.
good
Take
one.
care of your wife, Chad.
Just a note to the 9 people who apparently are watching on my channel. If you click on the link that's pinned to the top, you can go to Father Eric's channel. You can like and subscribe.
And be
And if you really want to, you can jump on with the StreamYard link that is only available on Father Eric's channel.
Exclusive StreamYard link.
And you can discuss with the other people in the chat on Father Eric's channel.
yeah, Jacob wants fewer viewers.
The man's nuking his own statistics in order to promote my channel. What can I say?
He's a good man.
That's what
He's a good
friends
man.
do.
I want Father Eric to have a larger channel than Bishop Barron because Bishop Barron has too much to do, and Father Eric has more free time than Bishop Barron.
I like
That's
Bishop.
probably
Barron.
true.
I'm hoping because I assume Cardinal Bolin is probably going to retire this year. I'm hoping they get Bishop Barron to replace him as Archbishop of New York if he ends up retiring, which he probably will. He just turned 75.
Yeah, it depends on his health. Sometimes if Cardinal O'Malley was in Boston until he was 80.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes when these guys have shown their ability to govern well, they get left in there for a little while longer, assuming their health is holding up.
That's true. But at the same time, it's a big diocese, and I wouldn't be surprised if, the Holy Father, wants to, pick somebody there because it's a big diocese.
Yeah. No, it's not an easy seat to fill, that's for sure.
And if we get a conclave, I mean, Bishop Barron has a much larger viewership than most of the other. What do they call them?
Papabile.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's going to happen if he doesn't become a cardinal. I think what probably happens is it's probably either going to be Cardinal Tagle from the Philippines or it's going to be Cardinal Pizzaballa from Jerusalem.
Oh, that would be awesome.
I'd be okay with Pizzaballa.
I'm a huge fan of Pizzaballa.
Are you a big fan of Pizzaballa?
Well, I listened to him speaking in Hebrew, and I liked what he had to say.
Yeah.
What was he saying that you particularly appreciated?
He knows his Bible, and he was describing Christian concepts in Hebrew terms, and so yeah, it was like, there you go.
Yeah. But it would also be cool. I mean, given the conflict that's going on in that region of the world, I mean, that would definitely be interesting if they got the bishop of that area at a time when, or the patriarch of that area, I think they call him a patriarch, at a time when all the stuff is going on in Gaza. That would be interesting. But I think back in December, I did a top 5 list of who I think is most likely to be the next Pope. I believe I had at number 1, I had Cardinal Tagle. At number 2, I had Cardinal Pizzaballa. I think at number 3, I had Cardinal Mario Gretsch. At number 4, I had who's the one guy? Oh, I had the Cardinal from Hungary. I can't remember what his name was.
Airdro.
Huh?
Isn't it like Airdro?
No, it was one other. It was a different guy. He's been rumored. He's 71. He was appointed by Pope St. John Paul II when he was in his 40s, and now he's 71. But I have him, and then I had Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, in at number 5. I think Zuppi would probably be more. He would be very similar to the style of Pope Francis. I think the Cardinal from Hungary would be a departure from Pope Francis. Like, I think he'd be more like a Benedict the 17th type. And I think everybody else would kind of be a compromise between. I think everybody else would kind of be like a compromise candidate.
We'll see. We'll see. I think the thing that's most interesting about the College of Cardinals right now is how spread out it is. You know,
Yeah.
it used to be that they were all Italians and they would at least know each other via reputation, right?
Right.
And then even, you know, there was kind of an interim period where maybe they weren't all Italians, but they all had some kind of Roman Curia connection where they would know each other. And now it's like, who knows anything about that guy in Mongolia?
Right.
Like,
Right.
Like it's a real bold move to make a cardinal in Mongolia because there's like 3,000 Catholics there.
Right.
And
I had to look up the name, but Cardinal Onayakin, I guess he's a little too old now. He's 81 already.
he could still be elected. He just doesn't have an active voice in the conclave. He can't vote.
I feel like they're going to go with somebody a little bit younger. I don't think they're going to go super, super young, although they could go with Cardinal Pizzaballa, who's still in his 50s. But I feel like they're going to go with somebody a little bit younger because Pope Benedict XVI was very, very old when he was elected. And I think they only had him for like 7 years. And Pope Francis was pretty old when he was elected too. He was only 2 years younger than Pope Benedict XVI was when he was elected. So I feel like they've had two old popes. I feel like they're kind of like, let's get somebody a little bit younger. But at the same time, they may not do that because I know there's kind of, you know, the conclave is very divided as to whether they want Francis II or Benedict XVI or even Pius XIII. I think it's the conclave is kind of evenly split between those kind of factions, like people who think people who want a Francis II, people who want a Benedict XVII, and people who want a Pius XIII. And I think given that it's so divided, you could get a scenario where you get like an 80-year-old because they might say, well, I'm not really a fan of this guy, but you know, he'll be in for like 5 years and then we can get a new pope or something like that.
The last time we tried that, we had an ecumenical council.
Well, there's that.
Father Eric's still the dark horse candidate.
John the 23rd. He won't be in there very long. He won't be very consequential.
Yeah.
He called Vatican II, you know.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So
But I
One
also
thing
feel
about
yeah.
one thing about Pizza Balla, I thought it was a very Christian, although a little foolish thing of him to do, which was to offer to himself as a hostage to Hamas in exchange for the children.
Hmm.
Like it was a nice gesture. I was a tiny bit afraid that they would actually take him up on it because I trust them absolutely zero, and so it was like I'm not. I don't know if I mean they probably would have offered. I don't know. Like they let a lot of the young kids go early anyway. So yeah.
I think if that had happened, I don't think Hamas was ever going to be smart enough to do that. Or I think they were smart. I don't think they were dumb. They were ever dumb enough to do that, because if they did that, there are a lot of Catholics throughout the world that would have probably become even more angry with Hamas than they already are. And that's a faction of the world you don't want on your, against you. That's a faction of the world you don't want against you. And also, I think if that had happened, I think Pizza Balla would have instantly been made a saint, because once you become a martyr, it's very easy to be put into the canon of saints, and I think that would have hurt the Hamas cause even more. So I don't think that
if they killed him, I don't think they would have killed him.
Yeah.
he'd be a confessor then, not a saint.
Yeah,
or a
But
martyr.
even if they like tortured him, like images of that would be like would turn so many people against Hamas that weren't already against Hamas.
They don't care about that though. Like you're rationalizing as though they have your virtues and values
Right.
and view of the world, and they don't. And this is
But
why
it-
people get confused with their moves.
Right, but if there was an image that leaked of Pizza Balla being tortured by Hamas, I mean, there would have been at least a number of world leaders that I think would have come out against that, because they would have been like, "Oh, look at this image of this innocent, peaceful,
I
prelate."
think that's why we haven't seen a whole lot of images of the hostages.
Well, there's that.
They do that internally because it's a win for them from their perspective. Because
Yeah.
if you strike at your enemy and they don't wipe you out, you win. It's a very Middle Eastern way of thinking.
I have to say, for Hamas, if they had a cardinal who they like in their religious thing, like this guy is just an idolater, like a leading idolater, like you have to put him to death, as opposed to the hostages, right? Which maybe yes, maybe no. I think it would have placed them in a very difficult position
Yeah.
to ever let him go with the hardline Muslims, because the hardline Muslims who support them the most would be like, okay, this guy you just have to put to death.
Right.
Right.
Well, and I just looked up Peter Erdo. That was the one guy from Hungary who's rumored to be the next pope. I have him at number 4.
Father Eric, for sure.
My
They're all
vote
good
is
for me. I think I'm
definitely-
too young, and my Italian's not good. But
Yeah. I think
Going up, Father. It'll be fine.
How many priests who haven't made bishop yet have been made pope so far? Do we know?
I know there was a layman once, I think back in the Middle Ages, who was elected pope.
Don't even need to be a priest.
Yeah, there was a
we haven't
layman.
even had first tonsure.
Let me look up last non-cardinal pope.
Because back in those days, there was a little bit of silliness. It's like you entered legally the clerical state with tonsure. And so there was a lot of people who just got a little bit of their hair clipped off, and then they could hold ecclesiastical offices. It was one of those little tricks that they did in those days. Celestine V was the one that came to my mind. That's when they had like that 2.5-year conclave, and like the people just couldn't get it together. And so Celestine V was like a hermit or a monk, and he came down from the mountains and just gave the Cardinals a butt chewing, telling them they needed to stop this nonsense and do that. And they're like, okay, you're the guy. And he tried his best, but he wasn't like equipped for the Italian, operations. And so after 8 months, she abdicated the papacy. And so he was the last one to abdicate before Benedict. This was in, I think, 1305, something like that.
I'm looking at Pope Urban the Sixth. I don't know if that's who you're looking at, but it looks like he was the last. He was the last non-cardinal to become pope. He was an archbishop, but he was the last cardinal to date not to become pope. He wasn't a layman. There was another pope before him who was a layman, but he was an archbishop. He was outside of the College of Cardinals. He wasn't well known. He was kind of like a small time, he was an archbishop, but he was an archbishop to a region of Italy that wasn't really all that well known. And so then he got elected and he was pope for a few years, but he was the last non-cardinal to date to be elected pope, it looks like.
It can happen.
So he was kind of like a populist.
Don't worry about it. We're on it. We've got our network at work. Don't worry.
Was only pope for 5 months and then resigned?
Yeah, he tried his best, but he just really I think he was old too when he was elected pope, and didn't have the thing is you have to go in there. You kind of have to already know people and their reputation and what they're about and what they're kind of driven by. And if you don't kind of know that already, then people are just going to sit there telling you 14 different things, and you won't know which of them's right because you don't have any experience with these people. And even if you speak the same language, you might not really speak the same language. So, so the historical accounts, and I haven't read them in depth, basically say that he tried to do reform, but just didn't have the capacity for it.
Apparently, he's the patron saint of bookbinders and papal resignations.
Well,
that's what Wikipedia says, and what Wikipedia says must be right.
That's it. Google would never lie to you.
He certainly interceded on behalf of Pope Benedict XVI.
Yeah, no, a few months before his resignation, Benedict XVI went and prayed at his tomb.
Wow.
So,
that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So he obviously was thinking about these things. RJ's asking if I've ever seen the young Pope. I have not. I've seen a few clips though. And the clips gave me the sense that these people get the vibe of traditional Catholicism without really understanding how it works.
I don't know how much I watched into the first episode, but it disgusted me at a level I could not believe.
Yeah, I watched the part of the first episode myself. I didn't finish it, but I thought it was pretty provocative. The first 10 minutes they had a nudity scene, and I was like, oh. But from what I read on the internet, there were all these based trad, Malachi Martin style accounts that were oh, this guy's the best. I wish he was Pope in real life. And if you watch more clips on YouTube, they basically imply that he was a closeted atheist, the character, and they basically try to make fun of Catholicism. But people watch these clips out of context and they're like, oh, this is the most awesome pro-Catholic show ever. And if you watch the full thing, it's not. It's kind of like the Conclave movie in a sense. It's very, very provocative. But I know I have a feeling the next Pope is probably going to take the name Pope Francis II, unless it's someone who's a critic of Pope Francis. If it's someone who's a critic of Pope Francis, they may not take the name. But I think if it's someone who is, relatively gets along with Pope Francis, I think it's probably going to be Francis II, because I think it's in modern times, it's kind of tradition where if a person takes a new or unknown papal name, the next Pope just takes, that next name to kind of, lay down tradition a little bit. That's what happened with.
My money is on John Paul III.
Well, it could be that too. I would say Pope John Paul III is probably the second. Another one which I wouldn't be surprised about would be Nicholas VI, because we haven't had a pope in a while named Nicholas. And I feel like that would be kind of like a compromise name. Like it would be kind of like I think a lot of traditionalists would like it, but I think it's also like kind of a warm and welcoming name. Like I know when Pope St. Paul VI took the name Paul, he took it because there weren't a lot of, even though it was an iconic name, there weren't a lot of popes named Paul. There were only 5 other popes named Paul, and it was kind of viewed as like a warm and welcoming name that kind of, evoked a sense of comfort to a lot of people. So I could see the next pope taking the name Nicholas, because there haven't been a ton of popes named Nicholas, and that would kind of seem warm and welcoming, but it also wouldn't be like an it would still appeal to traditionalists as well, but it would also be warm and welcoming to kind of an ecumenical spirit as well. So I could see Nicholas II. I don't think you're going to get a Pius XIII. I don't think you're going to get like a Boniface. How many Boniface popes have there been? I don't know, but I don't think you're going to get another Boniface.
It's been a while since the last time we had a Boniface.
I don't think you're going to get another Boniface.
Question, Silas. Real question is, what's your papal name when you get elected? You're baptized male, I assume.
Yes. Oh, I would say my papal name is probably Thomas Charbel. I'd go 2 names. I'd go Thomas Charbel. I would take the name Thomas after Thomas Aquinas, and then I would take the name Charbel after Saint Charbel Makhlouf.
Okay, so you're probably one of those Maronite Christians, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Father Eric, what's your papal name? Big Mac?
I think it's time for another Gregory.
Yeah.
And this would be the best part. This will be the best part, because I'll have 5 different reasons why I picked that name. And one of them will be, well, that's the name of my favorite uncle. So.
Yeah. Well, that's what Pope St. John the 23rd said. They said, "Why'd you pick the name John?" He's like, my dad's name was John. Like, that's literally what he said. They asked him in an interview, they're like, "Why did you pick this name?" And he's like, my dad's name was John.
But your Discord name would have to
there'd be like I'd have a story about Gregory the Great. I'd have a story about Gregory the 7th. I'd have a story about Gregory the 16th. Or was it 14th? The one who wrote Mirari Vos, talking about how stupid free speech was.
Leo
down with free speech.
Yeah.
Was that Leo the 13th?
Pope Leo the 14th would be another good one.
Yeah. I could see a pope taking the name Leo the 14th. I doubt it, but I could maybe see it, because there's a lot of traditionalists that like Pope Leo the 14th, but there's also a lot of, more moderate cardinals that I think like Leo the 14th or Leo the 13th as well. So I could see them taking the name Leo the 14th. That's one that
Leo the 13th looked good in photographs. He had that going.
Yeah, he's the first. I think I read somewhere he was the first man ever videotaped in color with sound, and that was when he was in his 90s. That was like right before he died, but they have like a video of him like walking over on a cane, and it's in color and you can hear the sound.
Zeph, yes, that would be a little on the nose. And then we would there's this like apocryphal list of popes that we're getting near the end of, that was published sometimes in the Middle Ages. And the last one was Peter of Rome, and then Christ comes. So I think we're just going to avoid that.
Yeah.
And it sounds like John.
Has there been another Pope Peter?
No.
Nope. They just kind of letting him have that. Yeah. And
there's a Catholic account on Instagram. Basically, they have all these accounts on Instagram where they have like Peter from Family Guy, but he explains all these topics. And there was a Catholic account that was trying to evangelize Catholicism, and he made an account with Peter Griffin, and he called it Pope Peter II.
Apparently, the Coptics have had 6 Pope Peters.
Of course.
Cops are kind of wild.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that are kind of wild, have you noticed that it's gotten dark outside?
Irrational creatures go to bed.
Rational creatures would go to bed under such circumstances. So we've come to the end of our live stream, and thank you all for participating, both
Okay.
the old friends and new. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. So good night, and God bless you all.
And Jacob, are you going to stream this week? Okay. Peace.